Alright, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors, man. Last night, they got just absolutely destroyed, obliterated by the Memphis Grizzlies. They have been on the struggle bus hard recently, and there's a lot to talk about with this Golden State Warrior team. We're going to talk about it all here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Links to my Twitters, all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So let's start with the game last night. Because this is what really triggered that video, I guess. I mean, eventually I feel like it was gonna come, but the way that performance last night was insane. Playing against the Memphis Grizzlies, a game I was very excited to watch. See what was going on. And by the end of the first quarter, it was like, all right, we don't need to watch this game anymore. Memphis beat them by 51. They won by 51 points, 144-93. And it was just an obliteration. It was an obliteration. The Warriors, Steph Curry did not hit a single shot. Steph Curry did not make a single field goal in this game, 0 for 7. Draymond Green did not record a single stat beside a steal. He had a steal, 4 turnovers, and 4 fouls. It was a negative 42 in 19 minutes. Dennis Schroeder, his debut. This is supposed to be fun because Dennis Schroeder debut. 2 for 12, 5 points, 4 turnovers, negative 34. It was just bad. They shot 35% from the field, 33% from 3. And Memphis just did anything they really wanted. Memphis, I mean, they shot 54% from the field. They shot 56% from 3 while hitting 27 threes. Everybody that played for them hit a 3 besides Brandon Clark. They had 60 rebounds, 38 assists. It was just going everything. John Morant only had to play 17 minutes in this game. He had 9 points. That's how good, that well they were dominating this one. Yeah, but Grizzlies just made the Warriors look like a high school team. They legit made the Warriors look like a JV like team going up against like a college team. Like that's how much the Grizzlies absolutely obliterated the Warriors. And it was just a bad performance, a really bad performance for the Warriors. And this has been happening a little bit recently, where they just have been not great. Not all blowouts like this, obviously. You don't lose by 51 often, but it's just like, man, like this is really tough. This is really tough. And now this more going into this stretch that they've had over almost a month. Over the last month, they have lost 9 of their last 11 games. They started the season 12-3. Things were looking amazing. Everybody was on fire. The defense was elite. They had so many players contributing. It was like, man, this Warriors team is a lot better than we expected. Like, they're going to be a tough team to face. The Warriors may be back. You know what I mean? And then once November 23rd hit, that first game where they blew a lead to the San Antonio Spurs, they were up at one point. I don't remember how much in this game. But I can show it right here. Their largest lead, let's say on here. But they had a point in this game where they were like good. They were up dang near 20 of them. They were up 17 with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. They're up 17. And the Spurs fought back thanks to Wemby, thanks to Stephon Castle, all of them, and they end up winning by 10. That's a 27-point jump, a 27-point swing from the last 2 minutes of the third to the rest of the game. From that point on, the Warriors have struggled since then. They've lost 9 of their last 11. They lost that game to San Antonio. Then the next game, they did the same thing to Brooklyn, where they have a decent lead, and the Nets come back and they blow them out. Then they lose to the Thunder on national TV without Stephen Curry, Then they lose to the Phoenix Suns. Then they lose to the Nuggets in a game where they also had a solid lead. And then Nikola Jokic just said, no, we're not doing that. And the Nuggets came back and won. Then they lost to the Timberwolves by 17, lost to the Rockets by 1 in the in-season tournament, that game where, they called the foul on Jonathan Kuminga. Then they lost to Dallas by 10, and then they lose last night by 51 to the Grizzlies. So things have just not been great. These are their numbers over their last 11 games. 2 and 9. I don't know why I wrote 9 and 11 in my notes. 2 and 9, though, in the last 11 games. Over the last 11 games, they've had the 27th ranked offense. They have had a bottom 3 offense in basketball over their last 11 games. 22nd defense, which is one of the things that they were elite at early in the year. They're like a top 5 defense. Draymond Green was in all defensive team talks. It was like, man, now they're dropped all the way down to 22nd, a below average defense, and 27th in net rating. So that combination, 27th offense, 22nd defense, that's not going to win you any games. Um, their stats 27th in points per game, 29th in field goal percentage. So they haven't been scoring, they haven't been hitting their shots. They also don't get to the free throw line. They're 30th in free throws made, 29th in free throw attempts, 30th in free throw percentage. So you're not even getting your easy ones. You're not even getting the freebies, and they've had a lot of games that were closer than expected, or they lost because they missed their free throws. 25th in fast break points, 24th in points in the paint. It's just they just can't score consistently on the offensive end. You know, and then on defense, things haven't been horrible except for the 3-point shots. They're 29th in opponent 3-pointers made, but they're only 16th in opponent 3-point attempts. So they're average in terms of giving up threes, but teams are just shooting them out. Teams are just lighting them up from three because they're 29th in opponent 3-pointers made, 29th in opponent 3-point percentage. So teams are just when they're not getting crazy amount of shots, but when they're getting their shots, they're hitting their shots. You know, and then they're also 29th in opponent defensive rebounds, which is very interesting because they are very good in terms of not giving up offensive rebounds, but in terms of giving up defensive rebounds, they're bad. So yeah, their offense is horrible, and they're giving up threes. Their teams are hitting threes on them, and that's a combination to lose a lot of games in the NBA. Looking at them individually as a team, uh, something we have to point out and talk about is Steph Curry, because Steph Curry is not having a Superman type of season. You know what? He started off solid. I mean, he had that moment against the Mavericks in the in-season tournament. That was one of the better games of the season. And it was like, man, here comes Steph. And since then, he just hasn't been that. You know, he's had a lot of games where it's just been like, man, Steph, you know, you could do a little bit more. You know, like he's averaging 22, 5, and 6. These are his lowest numbers. This is the lowest points per game average since 2020, which is the year he only played 6 games because he got hurt and the Warriors sucked that year. And he's not taking a lot of shots either. He's only taking 16 shots a game. This is the lowest amount of field goal attempts since 2012. 2012. Like, he wasn't even an all-star the last time he's taken this low amount of shots. 2012, over 13 years. This is the lowest amount of shots he's taken. Lowest three-point attempts since 2020, and lowest free throw attempts since 2013. So he's not taking a lot of shots. A part of that also, I feel like, is teams are kind of realizing, hey, they don't have depth on this roster. They don't have real depth on this roster. So, you know, we're just going to face guard, double team Steph, and force everybody else to beat us, and it's working. You know, Steph is not having been Superman season. He's also 36 years old, Steph Curry, you know, and we know it's going to hit eventually. But I feel like it's not hitting in the same way. It's not hitting because he's older. It's hitting kind of because, like, teams are kind of realizing this team isn't that good. You know, they're not as good as we thought they were in the first 15 games of the season, you know? And then there's a lot of other problems with the depth, you know? Jonathan Kuminga, they're young guys in general. Jonathan Kuminga has not popped off like we thought. You know, last year, Kuminga had a point where he literally had to he had to request a trade to get actual minutes. And when he got those actual minutes, he was actually very good. He was in the MIP conversation. He was having some 20-point games, big nights, and it was like, man, Jonathan Kuminga is still only like, what, 21, 22 years old? He might have a big season. And so far, he hasn't had the big season yet. His numbers look okay. 15, 4, and 2 on decent efficiency. Except for 59% from the free throw line, you got to hit your free throws. But the Warriors have a lot of players shooting like 60% from the free throw line. It's really weird. But like he just hasn't had that pop off type of that MIP, that big jump yet. He still kind of looks the same. And I honestly feel like his his development isn't going to come with the Golden State Warriors. I feel like his development and that big jump isn't going to come with the Warriors because the Warriors just have a system that they play, and it's just really hard for Kuminga. He's a guy that doesn't shoot a lot of threes, you know, doesn't make a lot of threes. He's more of a give me the ball and let me go 1-on-1 and use my athleticism and my body to attack the rim, you know, and do that. And he does it when he does do it, it's nice. But it's just the Warriors are not a team that just allows people besides Steph Curry to do that. You know, and I just feel like it's almost dang near like he's kind of run the mill with this team in terms of like it's like they've been at it for so long and they haven't been able to develop him. I feel like his future is somewhere else. and his pop off is somewhere else. He needs to go to a team that kind of like features him, which the Warriors have been trying to kind of do this season. The Warriors have been trying to do it, especially the last couple games he's been starting because they want to build up his trade value, but it just hasn't really happened yet. He had that one game against the Rockets that was really good, but besides that, he just hasn't really had that big pop off of a season. I just feel like his future is not in Golden State anymore. And then Brandon Pajemski, man, I don't know what happened. He had an amazing rookie season. Like he was looked at as one of the spot like the players of the future for the Warriors that they can bridge the timeline. He can play with Steph, but also when Steph's gone, he can take a little bit and stuff. And he just looks bad, straight up bad. Like I don't know what happened, but he just forgot how to play basketball. I don't know what is going on, but these numbers are horrible. 8, 4, and 3, 39, 25, 73 shooting splits. His minutes have gone down to 24 and a half. He was playing 26 minutes last year. Literally every single number is down. Points per game down by a whole point. Rebounds down by a whole rebound. Assists down by a little bit. Field goal percentage down by a lot. And he's taking the same amount of shots. He's taking the same amount of field goal attempts from last year to this year, but his shooting went down from 45% to 39%. Three-pointers are about the same. 38% shooter last year, 25% shooter. It's just his minutes are down by almost by 2 whole minutes because it's just like, man, like he looks dang near unplayable. He just has moments where it's like, what happened? What happened? And now you look at him, now the Warriors kind of look bad on themselves because it's like they had a chance in the offseason to go out and get Larry Markkinen. They had a chance in the offseason to go out and get some guys. Well, mainly Larry Markkinen, but they did not want to give up Brandon Pajemski. And now you look at it and you're like, dang, we could really use Larry Markkinen right now. We could really not use a Brandon Pajemski right now. Like that could have been a finesse job by Golden State, but instead they hold on to their young pieces and things don't look right for them, which is what the Warriors have done the last couple of years. Ever since they got these picks, drafted guys like Kuminga, drafted Moses Moody, drafted James Wiseman, they've been trying to do the two timeline thing, bridge the gap between like we're gonna compete with Steph, but also have these young guys that can compete with Steph, and when Steph leaves, we have them still here. They've tried it, and it just the only one that really kind of worked was Jordan Poole, but then you traded him 2 years later because Draymond Green like Mike Tyson him for whatever reason, you know. So it's like James Wiseman is like didn't work out. You had to trade him. He's already on his what third team already, and unfortunately he's out for the season. You know, hopefully he gets healthy. Jonathan Kuminga has had moments, hasn't popped off. Moses Moody's in his fourth year and still isn't a regular rotational player for some reason. You know, he still doesn't really have a role on this team. When he does play, he's decent, but he just hasn't found a role yet. Brandon Pajemski, who had an amazing rookie season, now he looks like one of the worst players in the league. Trace Jackson Davis was like the 57th pick, so you did good on there, you know, but he's not an actual starting center in this league, unfortunately. He just isn't is. He's a solid backup. I like his energy he brings. He's a lob threat, does everything you need him to do. He just isn't a starting center in the league. And so the young development for this team has just not been it. You know, when they could have cashed in on some of these picks and go out and get actual guys and real star players to put around Steph Curry, the best player in your franchise history, the guy that has your franchise now is the most valued franchise in the NBA. But instead, you're like, we're going to keep the young guys. We're going to bridge the gap. We're going to compete and also develop. And it doesn't, just things don't work like that. It doesn't. Teams have tried it. It doesn't work. It doesn't. Because it's so hard to win in the NBA with young guys that haven't experienced winning in the NBA. Obviously, that should make sense. And now you're kind of stuck in this hole where it's like, what do we do now? You know, like right now they're struggling. They're 14 and 13, 14 and 12. I'm sorry, they're 10th in the West. They're just holding on to a playing spot. Right, the Spurs are right on their tail. Who got a great win last night against the Hawks. And what do we do? What do we do? Where do we go from here? Because like you traded for Dennis Schroeder, and it was a steal. Should Anthony Bellwood wasn't even playing anymore? Should you have traded a couple second round picks to get a guy like Dennis Schroeder? And not encouraging first game. Obviously, he's going to play a lot more and be better. But Dennis Schroeder is not enough. And we said it already. Dennis Schroeder is not enough for this team. This team needs bigger help than Dennis Schroeder, you know. And unfortunately, the star market isn't really big right now. Besides, do you risk it all and go for Jimmy Butler? Do you risk it all and go for Jimmy Butler? Do you think Brandon Ingram really helps his team a whole lot? Because you can't trade for Larry Marketing right now, because he can't be traded this season. So I think like the only thing that helps us is another star player, and even then, like if the Warriors have Jimmy Butler, I don't see this team as a contender. Still, I still think the Thunder are better than them. I still honestly probably maybe would take the Mavericks over them. You know, the Nuggets, they have Jokic. So, you know, they always are gonna have a chance with Jokic in them. You know, even the Grizzlies are still gonna be a tough team to beat with if they have Jimmy Butler. Like I just don't see they're just stuck. They're stuck in purgatory. That's what it is. They're stuck in purgatory. Where it's like we're not bad enough so that we're gonna get multiple picks. We still have Steph Curry, who we still want to compete with, but we just can't put the team around him. And I said it earlier in the off season. Did I say it on this channel? I hope I said it on the channel. Or if I said it in like person or whatever, and didn't say it on here. I was talking to someone about it. But it's gonna suck that the Warriors are kind of gonna waste the last couple years of Steph Curry's career, unfortunately. Like I don't think he's ever gonna have another real chance. Like obviously they might make a playing spot, maybe sneak into a playoff just because. But in terms of a real chance to actually go out and compete for a championship and be one of the top teams to compete, I think those days are over with. I think those days are over with for Steph, which is really unfortunate, obviously. But it's just kind of like, hey, the front office dropped the ball a little bit on the future of this team. And now they're looking at it and it's like, man, we kind of are mid. We're just really mid right now, even though we have Steph Curry, one of the better players of the last generation. It's an unfortunate situation. You know, they can still maybe make a move, but then again, how valuable are the young players right now? How valuable are Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, and Moses Moody? Like, not super. I mean, obviously, maybe you take a chance on them because maybe they can do something. But if you're Miami, you're like, how's Pat Riley feel about Jonathan Kuminga? You know, how does Pat Riley feel about Brandon Pajemski? Also, Miami also already had a report that came out during the Jimmy Butler trade news saying that they want win now pieces back. And those three are not win now pieces right now. They can't win on the Warriors. So it's like I just don't know how that avenue goes. And if you don't have Jimmy Butler, I don't know what else you get unless you're in the works and somehow randomly another star player comes available and you jump in on it quick. Like that's the only really scenario. But I just I don't know. They've just been slowly falling and falling and falling and falling and falling and now they're kind of in a free fall where like I don't know what's gonna happen next. I really don't know what's gonna happen next for this team. Um, it's really unfortunate. It really is unfortunate because they started the year off so well. 12-3, 12 of their 15 games they won, and it's like, oh my God, the Warriors are back. They're here. They're gonna be a tough team to beat. All this, and now it's like, oh my goodness, like they kind of suck now. It's tough, Pat. It's tough. It's tough to watch, but we'll see what happens. Let's see if Mike Dunleavy makes some moves, you know, to get this team better, which it has to happen. What moves are they gonna make to get better? Are they gonna finally kind of wave the white flag on the young pieces and go out all out for another guy, or are they just gonna keep this team around and be like, you know what, we're just gonna be mid with Steph Curry? And yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it a whole lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.